Hey everybody, hope you all are having a wonderful night. Hey Mel, so glad you could make it, girl. Hey Rebecca. Alright, so tonight we are gonna continue the discussion of comparison. I'm really excited about this. I think I took a different approach in connecting this stuff. Yeah, Rebecca, you are early. I'm so glad. We are gonna have fun. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and get your Bible out, we're gonna be in Luke 12:13 through 21. And this is Jesus tells the parable of the rich fool. Rebecca, of course, I'm so glad you all are here and that I have some friends to do it with. That makes me so happy. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead, guys, and jump right in. I took some notes beforehand, so I'm not making this stuff up. I did study, and today I actually have my laptop here, so we can look some stuff up. So I'm just going to, I'm sitting in my recliner in my living room. I'm just going to move my camera. Okay, and if you guys are concerned, Susie is still here with me. Here's my little baby Sue, my little princess. Okay. Alright, so here we go. So we will start like normal, reading it first, and then kind of dissecting each part. Okay. Someone in the crowd said unto him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Jesus replied, Man who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you. Then he said unto them, Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Okay, I don't know why that was so hard for me to read. I think it was because I was reading the phone screen and not my actual Bible. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack from this little tiny section. So we're going to start here first, and then we will continue on. So they're in a crowd, and somebody asked him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Okay, so there's a couple points with this. So I'm just going to circle teacher, and I'm going to say rabbi. So back in these days, it was super common for people to go to a higher authority. I'm just gonna say higher. To go to a higher authority for I don't know what you call it, for somebody to problem solve. So today, it might be a counselor. Okay, yeah, Mel says hers says master, so I'm just gonna put master. That could be a different translation too. So yeah, so they would go to these people to kind of help work out their responses. So kind of if you go to counseling today, or if you're in an argument with somebody and you need help talking it out or something, that's kind of what they were doing. So tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. So back in Deuteronomy, the inheritance, this is when they talked a lot about the double portion. And that was in, I'm just right here, Deuteronomy 21:17. So if you want to look that up later, you can. So they talk a lot about the double portioning, and that's to clarify to the firstborn. Hope you guys can see that. Double portion to the firstborn for the inheritance. Okay. So then Jesus replied, so here's a really good thing that I think we should take Oh, sorry, guys. I'll write it up here. It's Luke 12:13 through 21. And I'm actually really going to try to write neat tonight so you guys can read my handwriting, because that's pretty important when you're doing a Bible study. Okay, so, Deuteronomy 21:17. Deuteronomy 21. These are supposed to be like a colon. 21:17 was the reference verse. Okay. So something that's a really good point when it says Jesus replied is that he always wants communication with us. So Jesus always wants communication with us. So they asked him, like, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. So these people are having, I'm just going to say right here, a family feud. I don't know how to spell feud. F-U-E-D-E. I'm spelled that wrong. I'm sorry. It does not look right. But they're having like a family feud. So Jesus replied, a man who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you. So I'm thinking, like a judge or whatnot. Oh, thanks, girl. F-E-U-D. Guys, I'm not a good speller. Please don't judge me for that. I love the Lord, but I'm not a good speller. not one of my spiritual gifts. Man who appointed me a judge between you. Okay, so this is where it gets pretty cool. So Jesus is saying this whole thing, man who appointed me a judge between you. Then he said unto them, watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in abundance or possessions. So he appointed them. So he's saying, like, thanks, Mel. He's saying, a man who appointed, like, why are you asking me? He's pretty much saying, like, why are you asking me? Like, Jesus had no desire to talk about, like, money issues like that. That wasn't his. So he wanted to point them to a higher issue. So when he says this, he's asking them a question again. So they ask him a question and he re-questions them, which I think is interesting, that he answers with a question. So I'm just going to say answers. As we go on, you guys will see, I'll connect all this in just a second. Then how this goes to comparison, I promise. So then he says, like, he's pointing them to a higher issue. And the higher issue is life is more than material. Life is more than material items. So that's ultimately the higher issue in this passage. Okay. So then 15, this is where it gets pretty cool. Then he said unto them, watch out. So watch out is a warning. Warning. If you guys can hear that, that's my husband. He's playing a game in the background and he's singing. It's actually really cute. Okay. Watch out. Be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possession. Okay. So he's saying here, be on guard. Remember, he's warning us that life, it has nothing to do with money. which is so hard to understand because so much of my life revolves around money, not in a bad way, but just like I have to pay the bills. I have some health issues, so I have to be able to afford my medicine and stuff like that some people don't have to. So for me, it is. But he's saying that money, I'm just going to put the money symbol, money does not equal good life or fulfilling life. Okay, so be on guard against greed. So be on guard against greed. So this is the key word, greed. So I'm going to put greed right here, and I'm going to move over to my laptop, and I am going to search the definition of greed. Okay, intense and selfish desires for something, especially wealth, power, or food. So I'm just going to say selfish desires, wealth, power, food. It's actually funny they have food in there. I think that's really funny. Okay, so that's greed. Okay, so back to the passage. I'll move my notebook back over here. Okay, so back to the passage. He's talking about greed, so he's saying, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance. So sometimes we have a desire for things that we don't have. And sometimes our greed comes from comparison. So when we're comparing ourselves to other people, we have those selfish desires to want what they have. So right here, Jesus is saying life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. And it also, I really think that it doesn't consist of wanting what other people have and you don't have. So I'm going to say possessions. I'm going to draw a line. Not what other people have. So the possessions, like this passage obviously is talking about money, but I think that we can relate this to comparison because like greed is a selfish desire, and then we have selfish desires of what other people have and we don't have. So comparison is dangerous, and this is saying be on guard. Okay. Next. Okay, so I'm just going to read this. Sorry, I was reading my notes, guys, before I was talking. I'm going to read this next passage in whole, and then we'll go over it. And he told them this parable. The ground of certain rich men yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I'm going to underline the questions. I have no place to store my crops. This is what he said. This is what I shall do. I will tear down my barns and put bigger ones, where I will store my surplus grains. And I'll say to myself, you will have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said unto him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Okay, that's a lot of stuff, but we'll break it down verse by verse. Don't worry. Okay, so the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. So this man he was a rich man, and he had a lot of crops, okay? So I'm just going to draw a line between those two. He was rich and he had a lot of crops. But he had so many, he asked, what shall I do? He had no place to store his crops. So he wanted to keep let me go over here, his crops. He wanted to just have more and more. He was constantly wanting more. And I think with comparison, we're constantly comparing ourselves to other. We're constantly wanting what that other person has, whether it's what it looks like to be their perfect marriage, their perfect makeup, their perfect body. But remember what I said yesterday, and I think that this holds true, that we don't know the truth on what people are going with comparison. So yeah, their marriage might look perfect, but you don't understand that it's not perfect at all. Or maybe they have a perfect dog, but you don't see the dog pooping in the floor because they clean it up. I don't know, silly example, but I think that's what you can say. So he wanted to keep his crops because he wanted more. What he had wasn't enough. So I'm just gonna say what he had. Thank you, Mel. What he had wasn't enough. And then I'm just going to relate that to comparison. You cannot read that at all. Sorry, my neat handwriting is going away fast. So that because we always want more, is what relates to comparison. We're always wanting something else. We're never content. And I think that we live in a world like that because there's always new information. People are always posting new to Instagram. They're always posting to Facebook or YouTube. There's always something new, and you have to constantly keep up, which can be so draining. Okay, back to the barn and the crops. So he's asking himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. So I think this is important. He says, this is what I shall do, and I'm just going to draw an arrow up here. He comes to a solution. And I think in this situation, when he came into a solution, there was a part that was missing. He didn't pray or ask God what to do. Ask God. And I'm making an assumption. It doesn't say that he did. I'm assuming he didn't based on how the story ended. So I think when we do this and when we're struggling to comparing ourselves because we always want more, we have to come to a solution by asking or praying God what to do. So his solution is, I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. There I will store my surplus grains. So once again, what is he doing? He's building bigger ones because what he has wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. Oh goodness. It's getting messy, guys. Because what he had wasn't enough. He wanted more and more and more and more. Once again, comparison, you want more and more and more and more. Okay. And there I'll store my surplus grain. And I say to myself, so you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. Okay. So when we save our good for later, like our money for later, and we don't take advantage of now, we're missing on the point. So like if you're saving like everything for now, I'm not saying this right. Let me think about it for a second. Okay. Sorry, guys. When you are like saving everything up and you're not taking, you're not living in the moment because you're so focused on getting what is in the future. Does that make sense? Like you're so focused on getting the followers or getting the perfect body or whatnot that you're not focused in the future. So, I'm just going to say many years. I'm going to say not focused. Okay, thank you, Mel. Stop struggling for words. Not focused on the present. And I think when you're not focused on the present, thank you, girly. Hey, God's gorgeous chaos. Can you tell me your name? because I want to be able to know your name and talk to you guys. I know Mel's name. Mel's name is, Mel is My Faith Journey 19. So if you could just tell me your name, that would be great. My name's Mackenzie, by the way, in case you guys were curious. But anyway, so when you're not focused on the present, you lose sight of what's important. So when you lose sight of what's important, obviously you lose sight of God. So I don't know, I think that's just a really interesting thing. Okay. So the next thing is, oh, Crystal, nice to meet you, Crystal. So glad you're here, girl. Okay. So one thing that people could argue is that this passage is about money, and I'm correlating it to comparison. But yes, a lot of people, like, you want to be able to save stuff and to prepare yourself for the future in a positive way. And that's fine. So for example, you have a savings account of money. In a savings account of money, you're being wise because maybe you're saving for a house. Maybe you're saving for a car. You know, you have a savings account for future events that possibly could go wrong and that they could help you in the future. However, you're not only saving your money and you don't spend it at all now. Like, you don't have anything. You know what I mean? So, like, there's a line to where you focus on now and you focus on the future. And if you focus too much on the future, you lose sight of the present. Okay. And then when we compare ourselves against others, we're not able to fulfill the potential that God has given us. So I'm going to pause on that note, and I'm going to continue on. Okay. But God said unto him, You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? So God is saying to him, You fool. Like, you're crazy. No, like, you're missing the entire point. This very night your life will be demanded from you. So demanded from you, he's saying that he's going to die. And then he who will get you what you have prepared for yourself. So he has been so focused on the future that when he was focused on the future, he lost sight of the present, and therefore he lost his life. And I think that is so powerful. He lost the entire purpose of his life. So this is how it'll be with whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich towards God. So he's storing up things for himself. He's so focused on himself. And I think when we're comparing ourselves to others, we are focused on ourselves. And I think that is a very interesting point, because when we focus on ourselves, we're constantly focusing on how can we change ourselves to be able to be different, to be like that person. So I think that's a very interesting thing. So once again, going back to my point, when we compare ourselves against others, we're not able to fulfill the potential that God gave us. So, let's see, I don't even know where to write that. I'll just write it down here, I guess. Prepare yourself against others. We're not able to fulfill the potential God gave us. Okay. Couple more notes, guys. So another thing is that God has, so yesterday, you guys can kind of see my fingers still, fingerprints. I was talking about how every single person has a different fingerprint and how God made everybody uniquely. So God has placed each desire in a different person, and he has planted a plan in our life. So we have a plan. So I'm just going to put up here a plan. because we have a plan for our life. And I think it's very good to remember that we are not strong enough or powerful enough to run God's plan. So if we go off track or we do something that is not completely aligned, God can pull us back on his plan. We just might have to take a huge big turnaround before we get back there. So we're not powerful enough to run God's plan. God has a plan, and we can't run it for our life. And when you are constantly comparing yourselves to others, you're slowing that plan down because it's distracting you from the goodness of God. So when you're constantly comparing yourselves to others, you're slowing the plan down. So I'm just going to say slowing down it's not God's plan. I'm just going to say God's time, but you're not messing it up. Does that make sense? Like, you can't mess up God's plan. You're just slowing it down. And instead of I'll just draw it down here. Instead of your life being like that, because whose is, it's going to be do, 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 do. So that's like the difference. So an example is when I get really, really upset, I can't be rationalized with. I cry, I panic, I freak out, I can't be rationalized with. And I really have to be able to sit down, calm down, and be able to put things into perspective. And I think with comparison, we have to be able to sit down and we have to calm down to put things into perspective. We might need to distance ourselves and pray to be reminded that we are all unique and that we can't be who God made us if we are trying to be someone else. So we can't be who God made us if we are trying to be someone else. And I think that's a really good point. That hit me hard as when I wrote that down. I was like, whoa, that was the Holy Spirit writing in my hand, because I didn't catch that. So we can't be who God made us if we're trying to be someone else, because God has a unique individual plan for every single person, and we can't mess up that plan. If we make a horrible mistake, if we did a horrible thing, God still forgives us, and that's hard to comprehend because some people do horrible, horrible things. But that's not on us, that's on them. That's another topic for another day. So I think the last point is to, when we compare ourselves, to remind yourself that you can't run God's plan. To remind yourselves that when you compare yourselves to others, that you're not able to fulfill the full potential that God gave you. And then when you are with God, you can't run his plan, but when you're comparing yourselves to others, you can slow down his plan. Comparison does not equal a good or fulfilling life. We can't have a good or fulfilling life when we are comparing ourselves to others. It's impossible. So we have to be able to become confident. Sorry about that. We have to be able to become confident within ourselves and have that confidence in Christ that we are who we are because of who he created us to be. And I gave this silly example yesterday that I used to love to sing, and I still love to sing. I just know I can't now. I'm completely aware. But I think that is a really good example. So, Crystal. Okay, I'm going to read Crystal's verse that she put in here. We are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Ephesians 2:10. That's so good. I'm going to actually write that down. just to have it as reference, Ephesians 2:10. I really like Lisa. She's really, really good. She's really good. All right, guys. Well, I hope this was helpful to you guys. I had a lot of fun. I hope I didn't ramble too much. And yeah, I hope that you guys have a wonderful night. I'm praying for you. If you guys have any prayer requests, let me know. I have a couple of unspokens. If you guys could just keep me in your prayers, that would be great. And I will be, if you guys have any other suggestions on other topics and stuff to do, let me know. Totally interested. I eventually want to be able to do, like, quote unquote professional YouTube videos. But for now, I'm just kind of doing these simple live videos because they're not as much pressure, and it's given me practice to be able to do studies with people watching, because it is kind of nerve-wracking. So I thank y'all so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful, blessed night, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.